generated the massive power to turn the whole nation to a new course. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer. And then, of course, he said, how long? Not long, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And indeed it does bend towards justice. We can be proud yesterday that in a country where 4 of the first 6 presidents were Virginia slave owners, which later became the home of the Confederacy, and we not only elected an African-American guy, we carried Virginia. Miracle of miracles. I mean, you know, the wheel turns. We put an exclamation point ending on the Reagan-Bush era. You know, we didn't put a stake in their heart. They'll come back. They'll get up off the ground and, you know, like vampires, and they'll come back again. But the Katrina survivors got a measure of revenge yesterday. Justice, we'll call it, not revenge. And their ideology is in big trouble right now, which is why they're semi-nationalizing banks. The fact is, you know, it's easy to live through this and not realize this is the biggest back-to-back electoral success that we've had since the Great Depression. Because we, you know, always hope for more, and we, you know, we're frustrated by the way the Democrats behave. But, you know, if this happens once every 75 years, this is pretty big stuff. And that's what just happened on Tuesday. We can take pride not only in the massive African-American vote, we can take great pride in the young people. And who expanded the vote for young people? Our progressive forefathers and foremothers. Who fought for the rights of Latinos to vote? Who, like young people, voted 2-to-1, more than 2-to-1, for Barack Obama? And that, of course, was after every pundit in Washington said that Latinos would never vote for blacks, which had to be the dumbest statement ever uttered on television by anyone who had ever met a mayor of a big city in America. None of whom were, no Democrat mayor in this country probably, or I probably shouldn't say no, but hardly any was not elected with the votes of both African Americans and Latinos. Latinos also rejected the anti-immigrant policies of fear. They fought back. They did their own march. They rejected the Republican Party. And frankly, the combination of huge youth vote for the Democrats and huge Latino vote for the Democrats is a long-term scary signal for the Republican Party, of which I am very happy, because the demography, if demography is politics, then that demography is a very positive thing. We can be proud of the resiliency and good sense of women voters who, frankly, had a tough year. Many of them adopted Hillary Clinton as their standard bearer and had to take that tough loss. And then they turned around and they were offered this little enticement of this woman on the ticket, and they had the good sense to say, that's not me. I'm not that. I mean, are you serious? But apparently the Republican Party thought that they didn't have that good sense, and yet they voted in huge numbers. So there still is a gender gap. It's mostly a white gender gap because white men are kind of laggard on this stuff, but the black and brown communities seem to have a bit more sense about this across the gender lines. We just elected a candidate who was smart enough to stand up and oppose the war before it started. And since, you know, United for Peace and Justice started in this room, well, actually it was a room across town, but it was still IPS, that's pretty profound. That's a good thing. And insofar as he's disappointed as a senator, let's not give up the political turf that the reason Barack Obama is president was because he opposed that war. That's why he defeated Hillary Clinton in the primaries. And everyone who voted Tuesday knew that he was against the war because McCain kept bringing up the surge over and over. And Obama kept saying, yeah, but you were for the war in the first place, and I was against it. It was his #1 example of his good judgment, which I happen to agree it was good judgment. And apparently most voters agreed too. That's political turf that the anti-war movement doesn't normally get. We should hang on to that even when we're frustrated with him about the military budget in the future. We just elected a candidate whose first political act was an anti-apartheid speech in college a quarter of a century ago. That's a good thing. That means somebody somewhere recognized his potential 25 years ago when he was just a student at Occidental and asked him to give a speech, and a career was launched. And now he's president of the United States. We can be proud of the slow but true maturity of white people in America. Granted, we're a little slower than most races, but we're getting there. And I want to say something here, because this is something where we can be proud of the labor unions of America. James Carville had a funny line, which he used years ago, which is that Pennsylvania's like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with Alabama in between. That's not true. It's a funny line, but it's not true. And the reason it's not true is because of the labor unions of America. And if you don't believe me, go check the returns on Tuesday from central Pennsylvania compared to Alabama, where white people are still lost in the death grip of the Confederacy, for crying out loud. It's like, get over it, guys. It's over. But in places where we have labor unions, they were able to give reasons for voters to overcome their racial fears. And we owe our labor union brothers and sisters thanks for that, because that was pretty profound. We can actually be proud of most Americans, except at Sarah Palin rallies. They actually seem to have accepted the ascendance of a black guy with a funny name to the White House with either euphoria or calm. I mean, knock on wood, right? There's always some fear out there, but this wouldn't necessarily have been predicted 20 years ago. We can take pride in the victory of a community organizer against Republican ridicule, which turned out to rally all the community organizers all over the country, and we turned out more votes. We can be proud of our internet organizing, the invention of small dollar internet giving, which our side has done better than anybody else, which essentially, it doesn't mean Barack Obama's always going to do the right thing, but it now means he doesn't actually have to care what his big donors did. He doesn't need them. He's got this incredible network of small donors. We've created a system where we can fight back, where when they smear him, we can fight back. The internet has given us a way to fight, to organize, and we're getting pretty good at it, and we can be happy with that. And that happened on our side. We can be proud that the old culture war scare tactics failed. I mean, socialism didn't even scare anybody. A scary black preacher on TV all the time apparently didn't scare very many people. When I talked to people in the Rainbow Coalition 2 years ago, they were nervous about Jeremiah Wright's effect on Obama. And they had a right to be nervous, but apparently Obama was able to push through that, and which I find pretty interesting. Obama carried the Northeast by 20 points, the Midwest by 10, the West by 10. He lost the South by 20. And since every black in the South just about voted for him, that means that's the weak point for the nation is white Southerners, but that's also a huge problem for the Republican Party, where now almost half of their U.S. senators are Southerners. I mean, they are trapped in their little cul-de-sac in the white, culturally fearful South, and they're going to have a hard time getting out of that, which is a good thing politically. And I think we can be proud of the fact that the winning candidate was identified with universal health care, with a timeline to end the war in Iraq with 16 months, with an alternative energy program for green jobs that he said he was going to put $150 billion into, the protection of Social Security, the Economic Free Choice Act. He was explicit about those things, and they couldn't defeat him. In fact, not only could they defeat him, that 53% and climbing that Barack has, and as they keep counting the West Coast absentee ballots, it keeps creeping up.